Hello, welcome to Nail and Notch. I'm Evan. This video series is all about installing a slop sink in the garage, and today we're talking about automatic faucet. This is like a commercial automatic faucet that you'd see at the airport. We're going to install it in our garage sink, and it's a really cool, unique use for that. Hey, if you're just joining us, I got some other videos that predate this one about demo, design, and then roughing for the plumbing and the waste piping. I'm going to include those in the description. Check them out, they're great videos. For now, let's talk about the automatic faucet. I'm going to go ahead and take not a marker, but a pencil and just mark vaguely here on the side where that's sitting. All right, so what I'm looking for right now is I want to see basically how much space do I have to put all my tempering valve, all that stuff on. So I see that this is my one side, this is my top. This is about the area that I have to fit everything in. I don't want to install it all while the sink is here, so I'm going to pull that sink off. But this just gives me an idea of how much space I have to work with once I move that sink. And of course on the bottom, I basically have till the bottom of the driveway. So. All right, so now we have our lines drawn. So we have a line here, that's the far left. We have a line over here, far right, and then our top. And we have two big things that we need to fit in that space. So first of all, we have our automatic faucet valve. So this is huge, which is going to be kind of an issue. I was really hoping I could mount it like right up here, but I'm not going to have enough space. So this is going to have to get mounted over on this side, I think pretty low. So I think this is where this one's going to sit. The other thing we need to mount is our tempering valve. Okay, so our tempering valve takes the hot and cold water and makes it a manageable temperature for our hands. The mixed port points straight down. And the reason it points straight down is because the inlet on this box is from the bottom. So I want both to point straight down. This actually doesn't matter. This can be mounted in any orientation. Hot and cold face up. So I have a couple options where I could put this. I could potentially place it here. I'd route my two lines in for my hot and cold here, and then this one would have to go all the way around and pop in over here where I was mounting that other box. Another option is I could mount it down here. And the plus of mounting it down here is I know that I have two bottom plates in my wall that are right down below where these PEX pipes come out. That way I could mount this into an actual stud into wood instead of mounting it with drywall hooks, which I'd have to do if I put it up here. Generally, anytime you can mount something into a stud or into wood, that is better. So I'm thinking I'm going to put this right down here. I'm going to have to bend my braided pipes over the top here. That should be fine. I have good access over here to clean out this port as needed. And then my other line will come down underneath and tie in over here. So what we're going to do right now is I'm actually going to mount this so that I can go ahead and begin putting all my braided pipes together. All right, so this tempering valve and also both of these quarter angle stops here have compression fittings. These are 3/8 compression fittings. You can kind of see what that looks like there. This is one without this nut, and this is one, sorry, this is without the nut, this is with the nut. If I take this off, I take this nut off, basically I have this little copper ring that sits on top. I can put a 3/8 inch piece of copper into that, thread this on, crank down on it, it compresses the copper, it all fits in really nicely. That's one option. The other option, which I like a lot better, is use this. This is a 3/8 compression braided hose that looks like this on the end, and it just screws right on top. It's really clean, it's nice. This is significantly more expensive than a 3/8 inch piece of copper. Not hugely expensive. I think this is about $10. A little piece of copper might be, I don't know, you can't buy it in 2-foot increments. But if you were doing a ton of this, copper would be a lot cheaper to use. But trying to get compression fittings to work reliably is a bit of an art, and these braided hoses look really nice. So that's what we're going to use for this project. Okay, and so we can see under here, everything fits in pretty perfectly. I actually probably couldn't have gone any further to the left on that automatic box, but everything fits in really nice. So let's go ahead and get it all hooked up and do our final water check before, and we have to rinse out the line. So we're gonna do a water check, go into the house, open up those valves, make sure nothing's leaking, and then we're gonna flush out those lines, and then we'll connect everything up. With these fittings, just seeing like, oh, you know, do I feel any water coming from behind the plate? I could pull this forward a little bit, right? We had that flexibility and I can feel back there. I don't feel anything, that's great. Same with this one. This one has a little less to play with, but I can pull that forward. Do I feel any water? Oy. No, I don't feel any water. I feel a little condensation on this one, actually, on the metal. But just like I said, we're gonna wipe it off. I don't think it's a leak. It's not in a spot where it's on the back of the wall plate, as opposed to like somewhere where it actually have a leak. But we're gonna wipe it off, and we're gonna see if anything else happens there. I'm gonna go ahead and connect up some braided hoses to this, and we're gonna flush this system into a bucket. Grab our fancy dancy braideds. I'm just gonna thread this right on. Now, as with everything in plumbing, you want it to be tight, but not over tight. So, I do use a wrench on this. All right, so it's really important in plumbing, you need stuff to be tight, but not over tight. So, I'm gonna use a wrench on this, but at the same time, I'm not over tightening it. I'm not making it unbelievably tight, I'm making it snug. Make sure that this one feels tight. Yep, they do. All right, so now, one at a time, I'm gonna hold the braid the entire time. I'm gonna go ahead and release some pressure here. Put more water. So you might see the steam. This is my hot water first. All right, now that we have cleared those lines, we're gonna go ahead and connect these to the tempering valve over here. So, first things first, what side's hot, what side's cold? So we know this side's cold, this side's hot. So cold to cold, it's gonna be tight to tight right here. Now I removed this ABS pipe just to make this a little clearer, but it is important to note, I have to go around that. And honestly, when I'm doing this, I'm gonna pull this tempering valve out just for the ease of screwing it on in front of me instead of over on the wall there. So I got a little bit of water in there still. Now, it's important to note, this says cold and hot on the tempering valve. Make sure you put cold to cold and hot to hot, otherwise the tempering valve is not going to work. So, just like before, we're gonna tighten this in. We want it snug, we don't want it ridiculously tight. Okay, that's one. Crank that thing over, crank it over, just make sure. Before I put that next one on, I just want to make sure that this one's good. And actually, you know what? That's a plus of PEX. You can make it turn a little bit. So that should be fine. I'm going to get around that. Now I have my next line here. It's going to come right over the top, or actually right next to it. And I'm going to screw that one on as well. actually I don't know what I'm doing, I can also pull this one out and do the same thing with it. Getting it down here. Make sure this is folded the right way. Oh, yes. And as you can see, those braided lines are really nice when you're trying to fit stuff in like this. And I will point out, like, when we were under the house, I was mentioning, you know, I'm going to check these lines over and over. I'm going to make sure that nothing's leaking. Same with these ones. I'm going to pull these out away from the wall for the next couple weeks. It's really easy. Reach under the sink, pull it out. Do I feel any water? No. Push it back in. Great. Then I'm just double checking, making sure I don't have a leak. All right, next one I have is this. This is a 3/8 compression on this end, so that's going to fit right down here on this mixing port. Then on this end, it's a 1/2 inch FIP. This Toto is using European British sizing down here. It doesn't exactly match this, but their literature says it fits. Because of that, we're going to go crazy. We're going to put the blue pipe tape on, and we're going to put the white pipe joint compound on to make sure that that is a really good connection. So for right now, we'll go ahead and put this compression fitting on. This one should be pretty easy. Do remember you're upside down, so this way is righty-tighty, even though it feels incorrect. And you know what? Once again, I don't know what I'm doing. Just pull this thing out. Make all of this a lot easier. So, as always, snug, but not over tight. Okay, so we're gonna dump that thing right back in there, push everything back to the wall. Here's this braided cord is a little long, unfortunately, but our options were 20 inch or 30 inch, and a 20 inch wasn't gonna be quite long enough, so it is the way it is. Fortunately, I have to sit down on the ground. All right, so what I'm actually going to do here, in an effort to make this marginally easier, is I'm going to take this box off the wall. We're going to get everything all sorted out without trying to do it under everything. So right, this whole thing goes through here. As long as this goes through my thing over here, then I can do everything right in front of me like this, and then thread it back through. So that should go really well. Let me adjust this just a little bit to get a better view over here. Here we go. Beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna be careful not to get any junk into this unit. But I'm gonna put this like this, wrap this like this, and I'm gonna do everything just like that. So, first thing, blue pipe tape. You don't need a ton of this. I would say 18 inches to 24 inches is typically enough. Works well if you wrap it in the direction that you're going to screw onto it. So righty-tighty, I'm gonna screw in this direction, and thus I'm gonna wrap in this direction too. I wanna make sure I get all the threads really well wrapped all the way up. I can overlap the top a little bit, that's no big deal. I can overlap the bottom a little bit, that's no big deal. I actually think this might be a little long, but we'll be fine. Okay, so there's that. Now, if you just leave it like that, this thing is going to be a pain in the butt to put on. So next thing I want to do is I really want to put my hands around this. I really want to get it in. Get it into those threads, make it so that it's easier to thread on, but still is providing that sealant protection. Okay, perfect. Now I have this pipe joint compound. Okay, this is basically the same thing as this, but it comes in a liquid form. You definitely can just use one or the other, but on connections that I really don't want to leak, I'll often use both, and I've had really good luck with that. So the important thing with this is that you paint it perpendicular to the threads, not along the threads. So I'm going to paint it like this, up the threads. Okay, when you paint up the threads, you ensure that you're actually getting good even coat all the way around, all the way on all the threads, as opposed to if you paint along the thread. So if I painted like this, it does get a good coverage, but I'm not guaranteeing that I'm getting stuff on all the different threads. I might do that to get some compound on here, but then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this perpendicular stroke. Okay, doesn't take very much. One of these bottles will last you years. Okay. Now is the fun part, trying to get it to click in when you have all that goop. Let's see here, where is my wrench? Somewhere. Under my butt. Okay, here we go. All right, so we know that this fitting is not a perfect match, even though the manufacturer says it's going to work. So this is one time I will say, you don't want to over tighten it, but you want to make sure it is very tight. Very snug. Let me rephrase. Not very tight, very snug. One more little quarter turn, beautiful. So now that is, shoot. That should be good to go. So now, next option is, I'm going to take my very long cord. I'm just going to pull this forward. Boom, just like that. Oh, and you know what? I just realized I forgot to put my little nut on. That nut should have gone onto this cord so I can run it up there. Now, if this happens, often happens, trying to take off all that pipe goop is not going to be great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off from this side and I'm going to thread it back across. Mainly because this side doesn't have any pipe goop, except on my wrench itself, which I'm going to wipe off so I don't get pipe goop everywhere. That stuff is insidious. It gets literally everywhere. Okay, let's unscrew this now. So let's see, righty tighty was that way, so lefty loosey this way. There we go. Okay, that was much easier than pulling all that stuff off. Make sure I put it on the correct way. And then lastly, go ahead and thread it back onto here. This is one that can just be hand tight. It does not need to be wrenched down. So now that that's on, I can go ahead and put this back on. Making it tight. Snug, not tight. Sorry, snug, not tight. There we go. That one's good and in. So I'm going to clip that back into its thing. And then this, like I kind of said, it doesn't look great. I will 100% agree, it doesn't look great. But it's fine for my garage. I'm just gonna kind of, loop it around like this. I think that will be totally fine. If this was a commercial job and this was gonna be visible, I'd probably hard pipe this. But that's okay, this is fine. This is fine, and I don't really get water on this side of my garage, so I don't really have to worry about water hitting that thing. Plus it's stainless, so it shouldn't get into anything. There we go. That is now set up, okay? All right, so that's how this automatic faucet gets installed. Thanks for tuning in today. Next week, we're gonna talk about this wash down. We're gonna talk about how that gets installed. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you're notified when that video comes out.